Hi guys, my name is Kit. This is my first video, so please be kind. I wanted to do a couple of video tutorials on tot scripting and some of the really cool things that you can do with it. It's a really great system and it gives you a lot of control over a lot of different things. And if you've looked into it a little bit, you know that maybe it would be nice to have some more documentation. So I wanted to create some videos to help a little bit with that. In this first video, I'm going to show you just a very basic setup for lights that turn on automatically at night. This is a thing that gets requested a lot. It's the very first thing that I wanted to do when I started working with the scripting. So I think it's a great place to start. So for this example, we are currently in the infirmary for my server. It's a RP server, and so I want all of the infirmary lights to come on at nighttime. So where we're going to start is with the scripting. So it's in your escape menu over here on the side, and we're just going to create a new script. So when you're naming your scripts, if you put something with a bar after it, then that becomes the category. So for something like this, I like to use the category utilities, and put the upright bar, and then you can call it whatever you want to. Right now, I'm going to call this night lights, just so we know what it's about. So in here are your nodes. You're going to put down nodes that do different things, and this is where your start comes from. So there's a couple of different ways that you can add nodes. You can either right click and add node, or you can click and drag from where you want to start from. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And we want to start with a get time because obviously to decide whether we need to turn the lights on or off, we need to know what time is it. So there's a couple of ways also that you can add variables. So if you are lazy like me, you can add them directly from your node, and it will usually know what kind of variable it has to be. If you want to get ahead of things, you can also add them from the variable screen. I'm going to be lazy. We're going to add this one from over here. And let's call this current time. So we do need to add some variables over here, and I will. So these could be either an integer or a decimal. I'm going to use an integer because the times that I want to set for nighttime starts at this time, daytime starts at this time, are whole numbers, would be, on the hour. If you wanted like a 6:30 or something like that, then you'd want to use a decimal, but I'm going to do integers. I'm just going to add two integer variables, and let's call this day begins and night begins. And this should be in 24-hour time, military time if you're in the US, or I believe a lot of European folks will already use the 24-hour time. So I want to say that day begins at 5 a.m. So I'm just going to put a 5. And then I think that night should begin at 6 p.m. So 18. So you do want to set those because those are going to define what, once it checks the time, what it does with that information. All right, so we go back to our nodes, and I am going to throw a math branch in here. So what I want to do first is check. So we have our current time, and we know when the day begins. So what I want to know is the current time bigger than the start of the day? So to use any kind of number variable, you're going to want to start with the $sign and then brackets. I want to know if it is greater or equal to day begins. Great. So if it is greater than or equal to day begins, that does not necessarily mean that it is daytime because remember, we start night at 18, so 19 is also bigger than day begins, but that's going to be night. So we need a second math branch in here. And this one I'm going to do some copying because I'm going to be lazy. So this one we just want to know if it is greater than or equal to night begins. All right, so then we've got our determiner of what time it is. If it is not larger than day begins, that means it's sometime in the AM. It's, 4 a.m., for example. So we count that still as night. Day hasn't started yet. So what we do with that, we're going to take from this false branch, and we're going to do fire many events. So what this does is it takes a taught admin tool and does something with it. You're going to tell it specifically what you want to accomplish. And the reason we would use fire many events versus just fire event is because on fire many events, you can give a tool name that applies to lots of things. So I can name this, I'm going to call it nightlight. So this means what I'm going to ask it to do will apply to anything that's named nightlight that fits in these tool type. So that way I can say, well, I'll just name all my lights nightlight, and then this action is going to be carried out on all of them. So like we said here, if it's false, that means it's still nighttime. So the tool type that we want is the scripted light, and we want to disable, or I'm sorry, enable, because we're turning it on, because it's nighttime. So that's what we'll do in that case. And then from here, if it is not greater than night begins, that means it's daytime. So I'm going to actually fill this one out first. We're going to need another fire many events. It's going to be nightlight again because we want this to apply to the same thing. This time, we're going to choose the scripted light and say disable because when it's daytime, you just want to turn it off. And then I'm going to move this over here so we can do something easy instead of pulling off another path. I'm just going to say, if it is true, if it's greater than night begins, then we've already created the action for night. We're just going to drag it here to fire many events. So you can see there's two kind of paths that this will take is if the current time fits into daytime, it's going to turn the lights off. If it fits into nighttime, it's going to turn the lights on. So that's step one. And remember always after you create a script or after you make changes to a script, remember to build, because if you don't build it, nothing takes effect. It's kind of like a save, but it actually is a little bit different. It just commits the changes that you've made. So now we have this nightlight script, but like that, it's not going to do anything because there's nothing calling the script. So what you have to do is we're going to go to the scripting events down here, and this should be a recurring event. So what I want it to do is every X amount of time, I want it to run that script. So you can decide what it is for your server. You can see I've got this auto lights already in here, and I believe I have it set to check every 5 minutes for my server. That might be too often if you want to do it less, if you want to do it more, but I'm going to show you how to build that. So up here, you're just going to add, edit your new event. Let's call it night lights, just so we're staying consistent. And this is your time, how often it happens. So let's switch it to minutes. Let's say every 10 minutes. And then you're gonna find your script here. So remember we did that utilities. So we got to find our utilities category. And then we called it night lights, I believe. Yep, there you go. So you just select your script. and then you save. Now, so you've got your trigger, you've got what is making it fire, you've got your script. Now you need to create your lights. So I'm gonna, like I said, apply this to my infirmary lights up here. So it can be on any light. These are, I have the Shawnee decorations mod on my server, so these are Shawnee lights, but it can be any light. So we're gonna pull up the radial menu and you should have a little pot, flask, add scripted light. So when you do that, it's gonna turn green, means it worked. So then you hold your radial menu again, and now you have an option for edit scripted light. And we're just gonna name it nightlight. If you want it to be turned on right now, you can check that. If you want to allow the option that someone can still turn it on and off manually, you can check that. I leave those all alone because I just want it to obey the script and not do anything else. So save. And then you do have to do that for every one that you want to turn on and off automatically. So this is going to be, the most time-consuming piece of the puzzle here. But once we get this done, it stays forever, which it just works, which is awesome. I think I have one more over here that hasn't been set yet. There we go. And so it automatically turned on this, I believe it's admin flags is what it's called. I'll check in just a moment. Where you can see those lights highlighted in green. You can see, I already did the other ones in this room highlighted in green. It's also going to highlight some things like if you have scripted chests, if you have scripted doors, if you use box or sphere zones, different top admin tools like that. You can turn that on and off without having to create a new tool to see it. And that is here. Oh, yeah, admin flags, and it's called staff vision. So if I turn that off, it's just going to hide that from me. So it just looks normal. But if you need to see, what your options are, what's going on, that's how you turn that on, is just admin flags, staff vision. And that's pretty much it. The one frustrating thing about testing this is you have to make it night or day and then wait however long, sometimes it will be shorter because you've already passed through part of the time trigger, but basically to make sure that it works, you basically have to wait. If you said 10 minutes, you have to flip the switch and wait 10 minutes to see if they come on. But this should work. If you follow those steps, that will create the connectors for everything, and your lights should go on and off automatically, which is a very cool thing. And it's very simple, but it looks very impressive to your players.